I stopped watching Breaking Bad, right? I'm not listening to heavy metal music anymore, right? I got rid of all my Metallica band tees, right? What am I doing wrong, Father? Please speak to me. We are absolutely the right now culture. What that means is we can get everything that we want right now. If you want groceries, Walmart Plus, Kroger delivery, you can DoorDash, Uber Eats. There's tons of different options. You can have healthy meals cut up and delivered to you every week, same time of day, same day of the week, because we want it right now. That's the culture that we're living in. And our prayers are no different. This culture has absolutely shaped the way we view every aspect of our life, not just our physical life, but our spiritual life as well. We start talking to God and we start praying, and we're praying for instant success. We're praying for things right now. I want you, Father, to change my world right now. I don't want you to change me. I want you to change everybody else so that my world is comfortable, productive, and prosperous right now. That's not always good. God doesn't work like that. God is not doing things right now always. Now, that's not to say that he doesn't do things right now, because he does. Our God is absolutely a fast forward king. He can take you and throw you into instant success overnight. He can cure you of illnesses right now. You can change your life right now. Anything can happen with our God. We have the highest God. He is the God of gods. He's the King of the universe, the King of kings, the Lord of lords. Sometimes he grows us in those situations where we're not getting what we want right now. For instance, I remember after I had about a year, I was in ministry school. I had stepped into my calling and I accepted that God told me to become a preacher. He said to become a pastor, so I joined ministry school. I joined 3 ministry schools and I started to tackle my studies, and I started to get out into the streets, and I was evangelizing, and I was praying to God after I had about a year under me. I was praying for direction, you know? Whenever I pray for people in ministry school, a lot of them would always say, give me direction. And I always thought, you know what? It's not going to be me. I don't need direction, because me and God are like this, and he's going to tell me where to go, and he's going to point me in the right direction no matter what. Fast forward to a year later, I need a little bit of direction. I'm wondering, what is my next step? What is my next move? Where am I going to go? So I'm praying for direction. Am I supposed to plant a church? Or am I supposed to join a church that's already established? Am I supposed to be a lead pastor? Am I supposed to be an executive pastor? Am I supposed to be a youth pastor? So I'm looking for all these answers. I'm looking for all this specific direction, but I'm not getting any answers. He's not giving me any answers. As a matter of fact, he's closing doors. I was also praying for speaking opportunities because I saw what he wanted me to do. He wanted me on that stage. He wanted me in front of an audience. He wanted me preaching. He wanted me speaking to people, sharing the gospel on a stage. So I'm interning at a church, and it seems like every month, every couple of months, the administrator will come to me and ask me, what can we do to help you along? What aren't we doing that could be benefiting you in your journey? What could we be doing differently? And every single time I always say the same thing. I need speaking opportunities. I need to speak in front of a crowd. I need to deliver a sermon. And if I'm not going to be delivering a sermon, that's fine. I just need to get the speaking experience of me on a stage with a microphone. I need that experience. God is pouring into me, and he's telling me, get on that stage. You got to get going. You got to get going. And so it seemed like a reoccurring thing every couple of months, like nothing would change. And I was getting really frustrated. I was talking to God. I'm like, I'm looking for direction here, Lord. I'm looking for direction, and I'm not really getting much direction from you. And it's starting to discourage me. I'm wondering, did you want me to become a pastor just so that I could be a better husband, a better human, a better son? Or did you actually want me to start preaching? And I knew that that's when the enemy was getting to me and discouraging me, because he put a very clear image of me on a stage preaching. I know that I'm supposed to be on a stage. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe I'm doing something wrong. And yet I'm pouring my heart out to him in prayer and I'm lamenting. I'm like, look, I don't know what else you want me to do, man. I stopped watching Breaking Bad, right? I'm not listening to heavy metal music anymore, right? I got rid of all my Metallica band tees, right? What am I doing wrong, Father? Please speak to me. I'm lost here. I need direction. Where am I supposed to go? He actually was having me focus on other things. It was more beneficial than I realized, because instead of giving me an opportunity to speak, he gave me an opportunity to evangelize in the streets. I had all this fire inside of me, and I was like, all right, if I'm not going to get a stage, a platform to speak on, I am going to make the platform myself. So I started going out into different aspects of my city, and I would start bringing Jesus to people in the streets. I'd start walking up to strangers and praying for them. I start talking to strangers about Jesus. I'd ask them if they had faith. And God, along the way, God would perform some pretty incredible things. He would send the Holy Spirit to guide me to people, and he would plant words of knowledge inside of me. He would say, go pray for this person. I'd pray for that person. Y'all could see some of my more awesome testimonies in some of my other videos where God is telling me to pray for people. He's putting words of knowledge inside of me to go talk to people and spread the gospel and pray with people to help them and heal them. Incredible things that he did in my season of waiting while I was looking for direction. He was still having me move. He closed doors, but he opened better doors for me and for everybody else. It's almost been an entire year that I'm interning at this church. I can take every public speaking class in the world, right? And I can have all the educational knowledge in the world, but there are just some things that you have to experience. There are just some things you have to figure out from your yada, which is your experience, not book learning. It's like street smarts. There are some things that you cannot learn through education. It has to be through experience, through living, through process, through presence. I explained, as I'm pouring my heart out, I said, at a certain point when God is speaking to me and telling me to do something and I'm not doing it, I feel like I'm being disobedient, and I'm wondering, do I need to go to maybe, do I need to explore other options? And the administrator was like, you're right. It immediately put me on the schedule to speak and deliver a sermon like a month later during one of the youth nights. So I'd be preaching to the youth, and it was just an amazing experience. It was the first time I ever preached in front of a crowd, and it was like a youth crowd, which would be like middle school, high school aged kids, young adults, stuff like that. Boy, howdy, was that an experience, because I don't have a whole lot of experience with this age bracket, and they are very honest. I figured they'd be easily distracted, so I made my sermon interactive to keep them invested in the message and to keep them from messing around too much. But there was still a lot of people that were, being loud and disruptive and kind of silly, kind of the stuff that I used to do when I was their age, in all honesty. But it was just really great, because instead of, in that moment, up until that moment, I had been thinking, what am I going to do to further my interests, and what's my next step, instead of looking at it like, what is my next step to serve the kingdom? What is my next step to serve everybody else around me? So I took the attention off of myself and I put it on other people, and I put it on God's kingdom. And I realized, I was like, okay, look, I have got just a little bit of time, and then I got to preach to these kids. And I realized it's got to be about them. It's got to be about them, and it's got to be about God. It ain't about me, because if it's about me, it's going to sink. Everything that I touch sinks. But when God leads me, and when I'm serving others with that servant's heart, that humble servant's heart, it's always something beautiful. He always leads me into a beautiful thing. And so that's what my focus was. I wanted to create a message for the youth that would speak to them, that would minister to them, but would also just be for them. It would be for them, and they could use it in their lives. So I made it interactive. It was really cool. And I will try not to talk your ear off so much, because I am very big-winded and a preacher gonna preach. But it ended up being not so much about me. I mean, I did benefit from it. I really did. I needed to preach. But the cool thing was, my message was about not judging a book by its cover, and that God does not judge the things that we judge. God doesn't look at the things we look at. He looks at the heart and the character of a person, and we look at the outward appearance. We look at the number of followers that we have on social media. We look at the cars. We look at your house. We look at your clothes. We look at your position in life. What's your job? What do you do? Those are all the things that we look at. And I remember when I was their age, that was something that I struggled with a lot. And even before I got saved as a young adult, I struggled with my identity a lot. And I put it into the wrong things like money, fame, power, how you look, how you talk, how you dress, the car you drive, the house you have, all that stuff. And I thought, if I can just speak to them, me of all people, if I can just speak to them and explain to them that we shouldn't, as Christians, as believers, we're not called, and we shouldn't judge people by their appearance. That's not what God does, and that's not what we're supposed to do. And I wish I had somebody to explain all those things when I was their age. So it was a beautiful message. Actually, on a side note real quick, the youth's version of praise and worship is so much different than I had ever experienced. They are like dancing their hearts out. There's like this gospel rap music blasting. It was like, I thought, man, where am I right now? This is wild, dude. This is wild. But yeah, so I'm going through the message, and like I said, do not judge or you will be judged. God doesn't look at what we look at. God looks at the heart and the character. And at a certain point in my message, I'm preaching about, there's this one kid, he's always got to be the center of attention. And up until that point, there was one kid who's being real loud and rowdy. He was cracking jokes. He was being disruptive. And by the grace of God, I did not react to any of it. I didn't really think that I was going to have a bunch of people that were being loud and disruptive. I don't know why I didn't expect that from a younger generation. It kind of threw me off. I'm preaching, and at one point, this had nothing to do with the way I prepared. I was just trying to create a message. I wanted God to pour a message into me that would reach these kids, and they would think about it for the rest of their week, I hope. The rest of their lives, I'd at least stick with them for a while. And at a certain point, I say, the one kid who's always loud, he's like maybe the class clown. He's got to be the center of attention always. He's always laughing, always joking. What if I told you that kid, that person on the inside was struggling? What if I told you this person who seems like they're the happiest person in the world, they seem like they got it all together? What if I told you on the inside they were in a lot of pain and they just wanted somebody to notice them? All of a sudden, the entire youth audience got really quiet. And that kid, that young man who was being really loud and disruptive, he got really quiet. And his peers started to point at him, and they started to look at him and smirk. And for the rest of my sermon, he did not exclaim any longer. He did not disrupt or crack jokes or distract any of the other kids. And I thought, as I reflected on that later, because I noticed the change in the audience, but because I was trying to focus on the message and not what was going on in the audience, I didn't notice just the absolute volume of people that took notice to him and his change until later. One of the youth pastors pointed it out to me, like that part of your message reached them, all of them, even the one who was being disruptive. God was using your message in that moment to change hearts, to really make this youth think. And that was just so heartwarming for me, and it was so beautiful. And then after I finished my message, I thought, wow, that was good. I finally got the first one under my belt. I got the first one done, and it feels good to be obedient. I felt relieved that I was finally obedient to God, and I felt blessed that I had the opportunity to preach to the youth. The very next day, I get a message from the administrator who was in the audience. She messaged me and said she was at her son's school and she overheard one of the students, one of the girls who was in my audience. I gave them all "What Would Jesus Do" bracelets. She gave the bracelet to one of the students. And she said, "I just wanted to share that with you because God is still using your message even after you were done with it." And that was so heartwarming. I can't even express it in words. That meant so much to me that God would keep using my message long after I preached it. And I realized sometimes our prayers, the prayers that we are praying for, are not the ones we need. I wanted direction, but I really just needed to listen. I needed to listen and I needed to be available for him to use me. So while I was praying for direction and I wanted these specific answers and I wanted these specific prayers, had he given me those, maybe I never would have preached to that crowd. Maybe that young man's life never would have been touched by God. Maybe that girl never would have took the gospel to school the next day in the form of a "What Would Jesus Do" bracelet and passed it off to a classmate if God had given me what I was after. But he gave me what I needed, not what I wanted. He gave me what I needed. And when he gives you what you need and not what you want, it's always way better than you could ever imagine. The Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, he knows what we don't know. He can see things that we don't see. He's not bound by science. He's not bound by logic and feelings. He's not bound by his flesh. He is a spiritual God. He is a perfect God. So I hope this message is helping some of y'all because I know how, trust me, I know what it's like to struggle with your prayers and feel like God, maybe it feels like God is ignoring you or he's not hearing you or he's not there for you. I promise you, he is there for you. He hears you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Hebrews 13:5. Put it in your heart. Let it take root in your heart. He's still there for you. He's just forming your next moves. He is creating something powerful in you. He is elevating you higher than you ever thought you could go because he sees what we can't and he knows what we don't. If he would have answered my prayers, I think about all the people that I met, that I spoke to, that I prayed for. If he would have answered my prayers and said, "Yeah, I want you to go plant a church in Florida." Think about all the people that I would not have reached the gospel with. I would not have brought the gospel to them. So it's important for us to remember that it's not always about what we want, but we need to remember and realign ourselves with him and say, "God, what do you want? Father, what do you want? What can I do for you? What's going to help me get closer to you? What's going to help me help you?" You know, sometimes that's my favorite prayer is, what can I do to make your job easier leading me? Or what do you want me to work on? Show me where I'm deceived. It's really tough when we feel like he's not listening to us or he's not there. We don't feel his presence. It's really tough. But what we can do for that is surrender. All we have to do is surrender to him. If we just surrender to him and his will, say, "Father, Let me know what your will is in this situation. If you're not opening these doors for me, because I'm praying, Lord, I'm praying for a new relationship. I'm praying for a new job. I'm praying for my next step. If you're not going to open those doors for me, then please slam some other ones shut and let me be obedient to your will. Just share a little crumb of this with me. Share a little, just a little, enough that I can handle, not enough to dismantle everything that we're working towards and working on. Just share a little bit of it with me. Give me an affirmation. Confirm for me, Father, so that I can reside in your peace. I don't need to be fully comfortable, but I need a little bit of peace. If we want to pray for transformation, we need to be open for that transformation. We need to be open for the connection. We need to remind ourselves, you know what? He knows something that I don't. He sees something that I can't. And I need to remember that, because it's really tough. It's really tough when I feel like maybe he's not listening to me anymore. And in those moments, we need to remember he's not supposed to listen to us. We're supposed to listen to him. So let us open our ears, open our eyes, and open our hearts, because what his plan is for all of us is so much better than the plan that we have in our heads. And it's always double portion. He always pays us double, triple, quadruple what we think we're going to get. He always pays us so much more. It's way better. Y'all just got to experience it, and you got to see it for yourselves. And you will if you're looking for it. You will if your heart is open. If your heart is open and your ears are open and your eyes are open, you will find it, and then you will be able to share your testimony. If you have done that, if you have had to wait, if you're in a season of waiting, but all of a sudden you're like, Father, bless me with the eyes to see the beauty in my world right now. Show me your truth. Show me what I may be missing right now that's right in front of my face. And then he shows it to you. Isn't it so much better than you could have ever imagined? You're like, oh, praise Jesus. I did give him the wheel, and he didn't take me off road. He just took me in a different direction. Sometimes his no isn't silence. Sometimes it's just redirection. And if any of y'all have any stories like that, I would love to hear them in the comments section. Nothing stokes my fire more than hearing these wonderful testimonies of, I thought that I was going to get this, and I thought that I needed that, but he gave me something so much better and so much more. I would love to hear some of those stories in the comments section. If that's you and you're struggling right now because he's not talking to you and you're not sure where you're supposed to go and your prayers aren't being answered and it's rough, please let me know, and I'm going to pray for you. I want to pray for you. Well, I was thinking that this would be like a 5-minute heart-to-heart, but it ended up being a little bit longer than that. I want to thank y'all so much for watching. Really appreciate it. If this video spoke to you, if this video blessed you, if you know somebody who needs to hear this message, please share it with them. Share this message with a family member, a coworker, or a friend. That's your way to share the gospel. And I'll see you on the next one.